Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 7, I think, of season 1 of Bridging Generations with Howard Snooks. And I'm Howard, and this is my guest today, Ben Kesler.
That's me.
I got all confused because I kept thinking Ben Stiller, but it's Ben Kesler, and that's who it is. Well, I always start with a dad joke, so I'll start with this one. So, why don't cannibals like to eat millennials?
You gotta tell me.
Because they're too salty.
Too salty. Did we come up with that? Is salty a millennial term?
Yeah. Well, hey, Ben, I know you because you're my barber.
Yeah.
And you work at
Until recently.
Until
this week, yeah. We'll get back to it. Go on.
We'll get back to that. The heartbreak of
yeah.
But, Ben is a great barber, and I know his boss, Anthony, really likes him and stuff. He really talked him up. And so I thought it would be an interesting guest to have Ben here today. And I'm going to just let him tell you part of his story, and then we'll get into some sort of back and forth here. So tell us about yourself, Ben.
Sure. Well, I would describe myself as earnest, emotional, romantic. I had a lot of dreams growing up about what life could be, and it took me a long time into the life that I've lived so far to start taking action on those things or feeling.
How old are you, Ben?
I'll be 34 in March,
Okay.
which is almost maybe a week and a half away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there have been many crossroads in my life, but I think one of the most recent and significant ones was how the COVID lockdown shifted things and opened up the space for me to reevaluate my priorities and maybe just give me the space to align with those things where I might have not otherwise had the courage or activation energy to just change my life into a complete direction. So from there, I started traveling in a van. I got a 2001 Chevy Astro, just this rusty thing in the Midwest, in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, and took off.
That's where you're from, right?
That's where I grew up. I was born in the Pacific Northwest near Seattle,
right.
And then we moved out to the Chicago area when I was 6 years old. And that cascaded into a series of really meaningful adventures and opportunities for me. I continued to work in operations management of one kind or another, got my first and only remote job that I've ever had, volunteered online, while I was unemployed, doing like chat room moderation and community management, and that led to other opportunities. I, over the course of 2 years while living in the van, ultimately landed in the greater Denver area, which I became very enamored with, and then stepped out into Latin America. I spent about a year and a half in Latin America, first going to Spanish school and also working with some plant medicine in Peru and volunteering in Mexico. And it was during that time that I was at yet another crossroads. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go deeper into my field to kind of potentially sustain that sort of nomadic lifestyle or satisfy this itch that I had to do something with my hands. And I guess long story short, I kind of stumbled into cutting hair and found out that I loved it, found out that I was good at it, and I'm still in the honeymoon phase with that. So I moved back to Colorado to get licensed, did so over the past 2 years, and am now working in downtown Boulder.
Yeah. Well, welcome to Colorado again.
Thank you.
So you said something about being earnest. That's the first thing you said to describe yourself. So just say a little bit more about that. What does that mean to be earnest?
Sure. I think I'm someone who wears my heart on my sleeve. I'm very curious. I think if I don't know if earnest is on the humorous or comical spectrum, but I think you can always expect me to give a very sincere response or to offer very sincere questions or curiosity to people.
Yeah.
And
Well, I appreciate that in a person.
Yeah.
And Ernest sort of has this sound, there's kind of a picture we have of earnest people. But I think that you do respond very honestly. You're an interesting guy, you have an interesting story, and you tell it, kind of from your heart. So I really appreciate that about you. That's one of the reasons why I thought you might be a good candidate here on
Thank
the
you.
podcast. Yeah.
I'm honored.
Yeah. So, a little bit about Mexico and Latin America. Why don't you talk about that a little? Because I'm interested in people that are going through reinventions.
Mm-hmm.
And, I went through a reinvention myself when I was 66. I was on one trajectory and then shifted totally. And you've had, I don't know how many you've had, but the Latin American one seems like a really significant one.
Yeah. I mean, I think van life kind of opened up my mindset to permit more of these side quests that weren't directly related to some sort of professional advancement. And it was one of two things that I could distinctly remember as having always wanted to do, or at least since a very young age. I knew I wanted to travel in Latin America. I know I wanted to have a better relationship with Spanish. And I think I waited so long to do it because there was no obvious connection to like how it connected to my profession or the working world or like something to connect to other than just I wanted to do it. And so it took a long time for me to justify doing things like that. So my first toe dip into Latin America was I just did a Google online for where are the most reputable and affordable Spanish schools in Latin or Central America.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lake in Guatemala, which I came to find after arriving there is actually a pretty common place for travelers to go to. I didn't realize.
That's where I went.
Oh, there
my Spanish classes. Like
in Atitlan?
Yes.
Oh, wow, I'm surprised.
No, it wasn't in Atitlan.
Oh, okay, but it's in Guatemala.
Yeah.
Antigua, maybe?
It's Antigua.
Yeah. That's usually the hub.
Mm-hmm.
I just had such a wonderful time, and then went to Peru immediately after that. I'd met some friends in the Boulder area who kind of opened the door to plant medicine or the opportunity to work with ayahuasca, which isn't something that I talk a lot about, but I went into the jungle in February of 2023, and that was a pretty profound experience that in short, I think really supported this change in trajectory and being more connected to self-fulfillment and being open to listening to some of those intuitive
That's interesting
nudges.
to me. And
Yeah.
I'm glad you're bringing it up.
Sure.
I mean, if you want to talk about it more, I'd be more than happy to talk with you. The ayahuasca scene, I guess, has become kind of big.
It's probably why I don't like talking about it.
Yeah. It's kind of, once everybody's grabbed onto something, it doesn't have the same meaning perhaps. But I presume it was a mind-expanding experience for you. That would be my guess. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I'd say it's true. Like I said, I don't talk about it very often, and it's actually been a while since I've reflected on it. So it might be hard to like conjure and speak to everything that brought to me and changed in me in a succinct way. But it happened. I was curious. I hadn't much experience with that world or those kind of things in general, but just wanted to explore another avenue of self-discovery and just see what was there. And in short, I would say it kind of maybe true to my nature, revealed a lot of things relational to me or opened my mind to greater meaning, significance, compassion towards people in my life on levels that I hadn't fully explored yet.
So it took you in the right direction.
I'd say so.
compassion,
Yeah.
opened your mind, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's the. I agree with you about those things. Ayahuasca is something I've not done, but I have done a psilocybin guided journey.
Yeah, very similar.
And it's an intense experience, and I'm glad I did it. And I'm not really ready to do it again yet, even though I really liked it. It's like, I don't know if I'm quite ready to go back there again. But insights and also kind of a sense of union with the universe is kind of, I guess, is two of the things that I ended up.
I would have asked. Do I get to ask you questions?
Yes.
Or okay.
Yes.
I'll keep that in mind. But I certainly relate to maybe the reluctance to step back into it so soon. I was open to whatever, however I felt called to do it or not. But ultimately, I came out of that experience feeling like I just really wanted to be present on this sober plane of reality and not use these elevated or psychedelic experiences to explore as much as I wanted to be deeply present with relationships and myself and kind of go through the same, to be challenged in that way than just within my mind behind closed doors.
So I got a related question then to ask you. Do you believe in destiny?
The visceral response is no.
Okay. Here's why I thought about it.
Sure.
That something about Latin America and the Spanish language called to you, but you can't even explain why. What on earth called me there? And then I thought, well, maybe it was destiny, and maybe ayahuasca was part of the destiny. So that was just kind of
maybe so.
I asked you that.
But who am I to say?
Well,
whether
you're
it's
the guy,
destiny. I guess so.
It's happening to us.
I guess I do get to choose what I believe.
Yeah.
But if there's anything distinct or a way that I would describe myself is slow to take on belief systems or frameworks like that. I haven't found the practicality in believing in something like destiny, and if there is, and if it is a thing, then it is.
Well, I don't have a belief in it either, although I'm open to the idea that there's destiny. Because when I look back on things that happened in my life, like if you look in retrospect, it does feel like it was destiny. But when you're doing it, it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate all the ways that people find meaning in their experiences or assign meaning to them or find comfort. So I wouldn't begrudge any one of those belief systems that they have. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Viktor Frankl? Do you know who he is?
Is it a purpose-driven or something?
Well, he was a psychiatrist who was during the Holocaust.
Yes.
And he wrote this book called Man's Search for Meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning.
That's what you're thinking about. Like his belief that, like, he's a psychoanalyst, someone like Freud or Adler or someone, but he believed that the major driving force behind what motivates humans is the search for meaning. And he found meaning when he was in the concentration camp. He said, I survived because I found meaning in that concentration camp rather than giving in to despair, because the opposite is despair.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, just the way you were talking about this, it made me think, I've heard this, this meaning thing is it's a big deal.
Can I ask you where you have found the most meaning in your life?
Well, yes, it's, and I guess I could come up with several different answers, but I would say that the meaning for me is a search for meaningful adventures. I like to do adventures, and I don't mean not necessarily, mountain climbing or trying really dangerous drugs or anything like that, but just like, this is sort of a new experience. I want to try a new experience.
Totally.
And that's the most important thing for me. I've been a family man. I've been single now for 10 years. I decided when I retired I wasn't going to be one of those guys that, sits on the front porch and yells at the clouds, or kids, get off my lawn.
Just for the bit sometimes, maybe. I look forward to playing that role a
playing
little
the
bit.
role.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and here we are. It seems like you are finding a lot of meaning in this adventure.
The podcast, I think you're the 7th person on my podcast, and I have really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
And, I was a therapist for 45 years, so
that's right.
I had, interview skills behind me, so I thought, well, I'm going to put those to use.
Yeah.
So
take it away.
Yeah, people like you, victims like you, are my guinea pigs,
Victims. I'm been a while since I felt like a victim.
Well, tell me about compassion,
Uh-huh.
and I want to hear a little bit about your family, where you came from, where you are in relation to them now, other people that have been an influence to you.
Sure. Yeah, those two do connect to each other a lot. Speaking of kind of my experiences and the compassion felt through the ayahuasca experience, and so the layout of my family, I have 2 parents that are still together in the Chicago area. I'm the eldest of 5 brothers, just barely. I have a fraternal twin. He's in Los Angeles right now, a very successful and esteemed animator. And it's just amazing to see him flourish in that creative space. Mm-hmm. I think it's pretty common for creatives to struggle, and he did for a very long time. And then when it happened, and he was ready. And I'll come back to that twinhood. My middle brother Nathan, he and I have spent the most time together, and I admire him so much. We counterweight each other in a number of ways. He's very incisive, very blunt in the way he speaks, something that I have aspired to and had to work on as a skill in terms of being more direct in how I communicate. So I really appreciate him, and we've done a number of projects together that have bonded us even more.
He lives
back in Illinois as well.
Lives in Illinois.
Yeah, I'm the only one locally here in Colorado. And then the youngest 2 are another set of fraternal twins. Yeah.
I remember that about you. Your parents must be going, holy smoke.
Yeah.
I know one other family that they had, well, they don't have the single child. They have 2 sets of fraternal twins in their family.
Yeah. So, we're one of those.
You're one of those.
One of those units.
Yeah.
And, I should or would like to reflect more on the experiences, to remember all of the directions that I went. But I would say the exploration of my relationships while in that state and in those ceremonies began with this, a kind of feeling like I was in the womb again momentarily, and it just immediately shifted my relationship with my twin. It was kind of like a fish in water thing, something I'd never had a second thought about, that I took for granted. And in a number of ways, he and I didn't really have a relationship with one another until recent years.
Can you just say a little bit more about that? That's interesting.
Yeah. It's hard to know where to start. We've been talking a lot lately, and we have a Discord server, all of us siblings, and have a channel that I created called Real Talk, where it's just a space to be vulnerable and share thoughts and ideas and experiences that we're having. And he and I have really been investigating our childhood, as he and I are pretty deeply immersed in therapy and our own therapeutic journeys. And he kind of came to this realization or consideration recently that touched on the shift in our relationship when we were somewhere around 6 years old. And any time I read what he wrote, it's incredibly emotional. I can't not cry about it. But essentially, so he's been reading this book, and there, a few passages led him to wonder, is this what you went through, Ben? But the experience he describes is, we were young, and then one day my twin wasn't there anymore. It's like we were the same age, but this person who, I played with in the yard or, sat in the shopping cart with was just gone. Like the presence was gone. And I missed him. Like I missed my brother.
There,
yeah.
But he was something shifted.
Yeah. And that touches on maybe a sense of responsibility I had, or the ways that I felt I needed to change or shift how I needed to be in the world that wasn't compatible with being a child in a certain kind of way. So to tie that back into the ayahuasca experience, a lot of those moments or conversations or things that occurred to me during that experience was seeing each of my siblings at various stages of their childhood, like really seeing them and kind of feeling like, that was the love that they needed at that time in their life. That was the kind of brother that they might have needed. And equally compassionate towards myself, like not a judgment of like how bad I was as an older brother. And ultimately that led to like a conversation with myself and with the younger parts of myself as well. So,
well, when you're talking about your brother, it sounds like there was an estrangement that occurred. Is that kind of what it is that happened?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And do you know why it happened now?
My both sense of responsibility for things, my desire to carve out my own name and individuality. It seems to me like we kind of missed each other at the times that each of us craved more of a relationship with the other twin. I think as a younger versions of ourselves, that's when he needed and wanted that, and I was very invested in my own independence and not needing anybody else. We also had very different interests. Like he was this just always this extraordinary visual artist, and I was always pushing outward and exploring and not sure what my thing was deep into my adulthood.
So he had a focus from early on.
Yeah.
You were searching for a focus.
Yeah.
And that led in some ways to the two of you going on different paths.
Yeah, I'm sure there are things that happen with siblings. I don't know if it's more common with twins where we compartmentalize, like this is mine and this is yours, and the protectiveness of activities and friends. It's silly and sad, but just a thing that's real.
I mean, I've heard the friend thing is a really interesting thing.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have the same friends, or you had the same friends, or a friend chose one over the other at some point?
Yeah, we did. I think for much of our lives we had the same friends. I think I was a little more driven to go out and share experiences with people. And I wish he was here to speak to that. There are so many things about our respective experiences that I don't have insight into yet. But we each had different challenges, and for me, finding people to connect with was always really important. Like if you were to ask me what makes life most meaningful, I would point towards relationships. Yeah.
Now, did you share a bedroom, you and he?
Yeah, for most of our lives. Yeah.
And were you in the same class in school? Same teachers and stuff?
It was rare that we were in the same class.
That like teachers and parents think, what should we do? Should we separate with it, or should we?
Yeah.
And so the teachers and parents kind of decided for you, I guess, you should be in different classrooms.
Yeah, and I can't say that was a good or bad thing. Like I think of just my own readiness to have and want a deeper, more intimate, connected relationship with my twin, because our interests, at least at the time, seemed so separate from one another that compatibility and where and how to share space together just wasn't obvious to my younger mind.
You know, I'm really interested in this for my own reasons.
Yeah.
A year and 2 days before I was born, my mother gave birth to twins, and they were born dead. And so a year later, here I come, and when I hear about these twins, I used to think, well, I'm one of them that came back. Where's the other one? That was always a question I had.
Interesting.
So I always had these questions about, well, what would it have been like to be a twin? You know,
Yeah.
to share a womb, to like, I mean, you're fraternal, so I don't know how much you look alike, but they're just that whole feeling of all that sharing. I just was so curious about what that would be like.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking you in detail.
Please, yeah, and continue. As far as likeness goes, we went through high school without anybody knowing we were related.
And you liked it that way.
I don't think I was intentional about it. Then there wasn't as much of an aversion, and I think that's kind of when things started to shift for me, that I wanted to include him and feel him more in my life, and loved having him around.
So what are we talking now? What years are you talking
Could be like 16 to 18, but then I was also hell-bent on splitting I fired my parents at a very young age and was ready to leave the house as soon as I possibly could.
Fired is like a strong word.
Yeah. I think that ties to his experience of feeling a sudden disconnect from us when, yeah.
Did he remain closer to your family than you did? Or does he, or did he? Or?
Yeah, I don't know how to measure that closeness. He did live at home until his mid to late 20s, until like his career really took off. And that wasn't easy. I think there are ways that I benefited immensely from leaving the ceiling of our nuclear family roof, and I think the distance allowed me to humanize my parents and my family more, and to see the dynamics that I had been holding on to as an older sibling that were really detrimental to the kind of relationships I wanted with all of my brothers. Yeah.
So you were in a conflict, it sounds like. Like you
always. I don't know which one you're referring to, but yeah.
Well,
very conflicted.
The be close and to be an individual, I guess, would be the conflict that
Sure.
I would, because relationships are so important to you, but also you're being who you are is a very important part of you. So that was a conflict I was addressing.
Yeah, and I think that conflict was more alive in kind of a linear relationship with how insecure I was and the sense of myself. Like the less I knew about myself, I think the more difficult it was to reach out and let people in. That maybe I didn't need that distance from him, the more secure I was. Yeah. That conflict resolved.
So, you mentioned also, besides being earnest, that you were always curious. And so, some people go through life and they don't have these questions about what they want or what they don't want. It just sort of happens to them.
Yeah.
But you really kind of spelled it out and said, well, here's what I need. I need to fire my parents early on.
Yeah.
You made these major decisions that sort of directed your life from then on out. So you really were curious about that. Who am I? How can I express myself? How can I differentiate myself from my twin? I mean, maybe that wasn't conscious, but that was like something inside more. So any ideas how come that happened for you? Like, what I'm getting at is, who else has had an effect upon you? Like, and I know that these can just be individual and it didn't come from anyone else, but sometimes people help along the way.
Yeah, I think curiosity ties into that. When I think about my relationships with people in general, when I try to apply the lens of how that relates to being across generations, it's a very one-to-one basis. I don't have a strong idea of what it means to be of the silent generation, a boomer, a Gen X, a millennial. I just don't have strong definitions of those things or things that I identify with. And on one hand, I think that opens up something that's really good for me, is just really being able to meet someone exactly what they are and be curious. And my desire to connect with them, I think, also relates a lot to their curiosity about me, their ability to ask me questions about who I am and how I am and why.
And you have a sort of openness to you, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's one of my own expressions of wanting to be seen, I think every human needs to be. And so the other part of this is just a question of who influenced me. And
it could be on a negative way too, like we grow from negative experiences as well as positive ones. But in terms of like asking myself these questions as a younger person, I don't know if it was as conscious of a curious, thoughtful experience as sort of like floundering and grasping for things that I think actually led to more black and white thinking and like self-protected patterns and behaviors. So yeah, but I think in that vacuum of perhaps firing my parents, as I say, there was also a craving for guidance, but that craving was in conflict with incredible skepticism and like very high standards even for an adult to enter my life and to trust them, I think. Well, I mean, I don't want to ask you questions you don't want to answer, but was there something that happened between you and your parents that made you feel skeptical of them?
No, or maybe, I don't, maybe there was.
I mean, you had such strong feelings about it. It seemed like maybe there was something that...
Yeah, I'm gaining a better understanding of it now. I have a deep compassion for them and how difficult it was to raise and start the family that they did, with the individual and collective challenges that they were going through. And so, I couldn't give a one-to-one timeline of correlation and causation and when things happened, but I was 4.5 years old when my next sibling was born, and then 7.5 years old when my next sibling was born. And I think it's really common for the flow of attention and energy to go to those who need it in those earliest developmental stages. And so it was very natural for me to be someone choose to be someone who didn't need anything.
I'll show them. You're defiant of not needing anything?
No, I think it was less conscious than that. I think the possibly resentment or desire for things to be different came out in different ways as I got older, and then ultimately led to me feeling like the only way that I can flourish and grow is to venture out and go farther into the world. And
here's where a generation thing comes up. I'm just going, I wonder what his parents, how were they worried about him when he was a kid? I'm just curious.
They were never worried about me. I don't think so.
They never were.
Yeah, I didn't give them anything to worry about,
other than closeness to them.
I
don't know.
Sure.
That's necessarily something to worry about, but it's something that you sort of measure that when you're a parent. Like, how close am I to my child? How important am I to them, and are they to me? Those are questions that they're not specified questions, but they're underlying questions.
It's hard to speak for them, but parenthood is something that I've always looked forward to.
I remember you saying that you really want to.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah. Can't wait. We'll wait.
Well, I was 33. On my 33rd birthday, my son was born, and then my daughter was born almost exactly 3 years later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're in that age range where parenthood starts happening.
Yeah, a few other things need to start happening, but
well, my
yeah,
uncle waited till he was 50 before he started his family.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I do want to touch on the influential figures in my life a little bit.
Yeah.
They're kind of coming to me spontaneously, but there were teachers. There was a male music teacher who I'm actually still very close with. I think part of that is because he had kids close to my age, and we ended up doing like musical performances together outside of school and stuff like that.
Wow.
But I think because of the school environment we grew up in and his leadership and his love for what he did, and also being an incredibly sincere and sweet man, like he made those things cool. Like everybody wanted to be in choir and do the musical performances, and there was like I didn't participate in this one, but we had like some extracurricular projects that the school would let people sign up for, and one was like Men Can Dance. And so I watched like all the cool kids that I looked up to, like when I was a fourth grader, these were the eighth graders or something like that. And so I think that was very expansive in terms of like things that I felt like I could explore and enjoy and connect to. And so that was influential, whether it had a direct impact on how I thought about things consciously. I could imagine if that presence wasn't there, that maybe I would be more inhibited or more reluctant to go try those things.
And it's an aesthetic experience too. Like there's art involved in the theater or in dance or those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, he opened that up for you, perhaps.
Yeah.
In a way that,
Yeah.
Well, good for him.
Very good. Yeah, and good for me too.
Yeah, that's great.
It was great.
Is he still working, or is he retired?
He retired recently. He still worked as a choir director even after retiring from the school system. But yeah, we catch up every year or two, go on a hike, or I've helped him with some landscaping. Wow. That's Mr. Zemke.
Zemke?
Zemke.
Mr. Zemke?
Yeah, worth a shout out. He's a special human and a great man in my life.
Well, I'm glad you talked about him then.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's definitely someone who made a difference for you then, didn't he? And he made something cool that otherwise you would not have thought was cool. Is that kind of...
Maybe. Yeah. I like to believe that that's true. I think when I play that situation out, it would have just been harder. Like the barrier of entry, the friction socially that I might have experienced in another environment could have been greater. And I don't know how I would have responded to that, but I think he made it very cool and accessible.
Was your school one that had lots of different groups of people, that like the jocks and the theater goers and the nerds and the scholars and stuff? Was it kind of divided up that way?
Well, it was a smaller school. It spanned a pretty broad age range. It was kindergarten through 8th grade.
Was it a private school?
Not exactly. No, it was a public school, but still
like a charter type school.
Yeah, it wasn't charter either. It was a weird experiment they were doing. And actually, I recently sat down with some people from around my 8th grade class, and one of my friend's parents was on staff there, and it was I think it was a school specifically designed to help kids with individual education plans, whether that I'm not sure where the world was in their understanding of like ADD or special needs. So either if you yourself or you had a sibling who maybe the parents wanted to create more of an alternative learning experience for, that's what this school was. Okay. And so I mean it's it's not politically correct, but we were making jokes about like, oh shit, we went to a short bus school. What was that? Was it me? Was I the one who needed?
Oh God, that's funny. A short bus school.
Yeah, it's disrespectful to the other people who had the needs, but or maybe not, but yeah. So that's kind of it was designed for that, and you kind of had to lottery in. Like if your parents saw a need that could be filled there, you had to apply to be in the school, and it pulled from different districts. But then we all went to the big, public high schools with like 600 people in our class and 2,500 in the whole school. Yeah.
Okay. So it was an alternative school, and your parents had to sign you up. I mean, they thought, and it turned out to be the very best decision for you, it sounds like.
Yeah, some people loved it, some people hated it. I also don't know how different it would have been elsewhere, but I appreciate it a lot.
Well, so when did you meet Mr.
Zemke?
Mr. Zemke. How old were you when you met him?
I think I was in first grade myself, and it was the year before that school opened. He was my music teacher at that other school, and that was the first year that I had lived in Illinois, moving from Washington.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting close to the end of our time.
Already, look at that.
I know. Isn't it amazing how quickly it goes?
Yeah.
Are there some things that you wanted to say that you didn't get a chance to say?
No, I did not come with a script.
Agenda?
No, I'm just ready to wing it with you.
Okay. Well, the things that I always like to hear about people that made a difference in somebody's life.
Mm-hmm.
And I, like to do a dad joke. And I like to sort of like see what it's like to have a relationship with somebody from a different generation, have an authentic sort of conversation with them.
Yeah.
So I think we fit my criteria. I'm happy with what we did. It's fun talking to you, and I'll see you soon at Rollins.
Cool.
And if you have an interest in doing this another time, I'm sure that we can find that opportunity for you.
Sure. Yeah, we'll see what other curiosities come up in post.
Right.
It was a pleasure, man. This was fun.
Oh, good. Hey, I'm glad you liked it.
Cool.